What is better than the Duke 890 or 790? The Duke 990. Today, let me talk to you about this unique motorcycle. Here we have the Duke 990, new for 2024, here with us in Barcelona. And if you're interested in this bike at all, make sure to stay tuned. So we have it here in front of us, the new Duke 990. The successor to the 890 Duke, which was already a great motorcycle, except for the oil leaking problems it had. Good news, this one is still fine. The engine does not leak any oil at all. Now, let me tell you briefly what we're gonna talk about in this video so you know what to expect. So, first of all, I will tell you about how I felt this bike performed in the city. Now, that means if it is a comfortable bike to be used in the city, if it is useful, if it is handy, and everything in that regard. Later on, however, I will take this beast to the Twisties right here behind me. And then I'm gonna give you my riding impressions on the beast in the Twisties. So let us begin with its city use. Now, the Duke 990 is a pretty agile and handy motorcycle. You wouldn't expect that a leader bike with this cubic capacity could weigh only 179 kilos dry, yet this Duke does. That means that this is the lightest bike in its class. Fully fueled up, I guess the bike will probably weigh around 190-95 kilos, which is exceptional for a almost leader bike. Now let's talk more about its use in the city. First of all, the agility is great. Now you get to lane filter however much you want at any time. There is really nothing lacking in that regard. The suspension evens out bumps in the road pretty nicely. Usually WP suspensions are known to be great suspensions when ridden hard, but less so. But they were less known for their comfort. Here, however, they really made a step forward and offer us a great suspension that is practical for spirited riding, but we're gonna get to that later on, and very good in the city as well. So, good job. You can obviously adjust the suspension if you wish to, which is always a great thing. The 123 horsepower from a twin-cylinder bike at first might seem a bit intimidating for city use. Maybe you would expect an aggressive throttle response or something along those lines anyways. But let me tell you, in every single riding mode you can put this bike in, so sport, street, rain, whatever, the throttle response is really good. You never have an aggressive throttle. It is never jerky or jumpy. It never wants to just go and let hell break loose. So definitely no problems when it comes to the throttle response in the city as well. It offers enough torque so that you can accelerate from a red light. You get to surpass all of the cars you wish to, and overall, also for lane filtering, the throttle response is absolutely great. Then let's talk about another aspect, heat. Now, a twin-cylinder bike, yes, produces heat like any other motorcycle does. But now we're in spring. We have spring here in Barcelona with about 18 degrees, and we didn't really get the bike to suffer in the city yet. Maybe in the summer heat that changes. Anyways, what we can say right now is that in the city it does not overheat at all, and it does not produce any unpleasant feeling of heat next to your feet. So that is good as well. The riding position is also very upright on this bike. There is definitely lots of room for your bum to be moved around, to find the perfect riding position for you, depending on your arm length and so on. So seating position also top notch for city use. The brakes are a real letdown. Yes, I'm just gonna say it the way it is. There's no going around, no talking around it. The brakes are simply bad. Now, in theory, on paper, these brakes should be pretty good, right? They're Brembo brakes, 4-piston calipers, big enough. But somehow, you don't get to modulate them very well. Like the pressure point of the brake moves around. The pressure point wanders, which is another thing. But apart from that, you really don't know how much pressure to apply to the brake, because it is simply, it acts in an unexpected way every single time. So you don't really get to modulate it the way you want to, the way you wish to, and that leads to moments where you brake too much and then it aggressively slows you down, so you end up diving into the suspension as well. And the rear brake is definitely easier to modulate in the city. Still, none of us are satisfied with the brake setup of this bike. In the city, it sometimes can get a bit sketchy. Maybe if you get to know this bike better, or maybe if you already know a fix, or if you find a fix for this problem, then obviously you're not gonna suffer that problem anymore. And if so, please let us know in the comments what the solution is to this problem. But otherwise, let's move on to the mirrors. The mirrors are pretty good. The stock mirrors are pretty fine. However, this being a twin-cylinder engine, it produces a bit of vibrations. These vibrations then reach the handlebars and the foot pegs. Well, the foot peg is not really, the handlebar a bit more. And at certain RPMs, you really start seeing the vibrations in your mirrors, so they stop being as clear as they are when you're in exactly the right RPM range, where they don't I don't say shake, but vibrate. Yeah, the quick shifter of this bike is phenomenal. Absolutely epic. Great job done there by KTM. We already knew that the quick shifter on the 890R was good. But they managed to improve the transmission and the quick shifter on this model even more, and that is great. That is great news for everybody that's interested in this bike, because a quick shifter simply improves your quality of life when riding a bike a very lot. The only thing I have to say about that is that the quick shifter is positioned pretty close to the bike, so your feet are not really in a straight position, but slightly leaned inwards. Otherwise, you tend to slip off the pedal, or at least I did. Maybe that was because of my boots here, because of my shoes. But otherwise, the quick shifter works great. Sometimes it will put you into neither one nor the other gear. So imagine you shift from second to third, or from third to fourth. It might happen at certain RPMs. We don't know when it happens or how it happens, but sometimes it does happen that you stay in between those two gears. Sometimes it might happen. Overall, the quick shifter worked really, 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 really well. So definitely good job when it comes to the quick shifter. The riding height, the seat height is actually great. I'm tall 170 centimeters. This bike's seat height is 825 millimeters, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I got that number right. And I really have to say this is a great bike for for riders who are not too tall. I can touch the ground with both feet at a red light, so no problems at all. And definitely the same goes for riders who are smaller than me and riders who are taller than me. The ergonomics are very, very upright, and you got a great seating position, riding position as well. You can touch, like I said, with both feet. So yeah, the tank shape is pretty narrow. It's not very large, very wide. So your feet are in a position that, like I said, permit you to reach the ground in a very easy way. The steering angle is another good thing about this bike. It has a great steering angle. You get to maneuver in tight spaces very easily because of its agility, first of all, its low weight, and because of its great steering angle. So that is another very good point about this bike. The lighting is great as well. We have full LED lights. You can think of them what you wish. However, they do illuminate the street very well. We have not ridden these bikes extensively at night or when the sun was already down. However, we had a few occasions where we could see the lights shining up on the street in the dark, and we can definitely say that they do a great job. With that being said, let's talk about my riding impressions about this bike in the Twisties. Now, it wasn't only me who managed or who had time to try this bike out in the last few days. My colleague, who right now is behind the camera, Shaf, thank you very much. He also got to try this beast out and is probably gonna publish a video on his channel as well. So if you're interested in some onboard footage, check out his channel. But also my other colleagues, Gregor and the others, got to test this bike out, and we all had to say that this is a great bike for the Twisties. It really feels at home in the Twisties. It definitely belongs there, and if the agility and the low weight of this bike were a good point in the city, it is an even better point for the KTM in the Twisties. It is simply phenomenal how you get to throw around this almost 195 kilo heavy bike, like we said, fueled up. It's probably gonna weigh around that. It's crazy how you get to throw it around from one corner to another with the slightest bit of effort. It is so nice. It is so natural. It just tells you that is exactly what it was made for. That is exactly what it wants to do. The quick shifter, when under load, works fantastic, in a fantastic way. In the city, like I said, it sometimes didn't work as well because you're either too low RPMs or whatever. In the Twisties, however, when you give it the beans, the quick shifter works just in a spectacular way. The brakes in the Twisties, however, are the biggest letdown of this bike. Speaking of the brakes, I already said that in the city they were not quite as performant as we would have liked them to be, and this trend continues when riding it in the Twisties as well. It's even worse there because you really need to rely on the brakes in the Twisties if you want to ride this bike in a very spirited way. You need to have good feedback of the brake. You need to know if it works well, when does it stop braking, how much does it brake, how many fingers do I need. All of these questions this brake really can't answer, or doesn't answer at all, or very well at least. So the brakes are the biggest letdown of this bike in the Twisties, whereas the suspension works phenomenally. The suspension combined with this quick shifter is really great. The suspension evens out everything in the city, and when it comes to riding it hard in the Twisties, it won't let you down at all. The feedback from the front tire is okay, but it is not exceptional. So the riding position on this bike is pretty upright. That leads to the front tire not giving as much feedback as maybe on other bikes. However, the feedback is definitely enough for the usage, for its usage, and with that I mean in the Twisties it definitely is enough. However, it could be more. Riding styles on this bike are whichever you want in reality. You can ride it in hang-off. The bike permits you that, the ergonomics allow it as well, but a neutral riding position might be more appropriate or might be the riding style this bike prefers. Anyways, you get to choose that for yourself. And another aspect I wanted to talk about is the engine performance. Now, we said that the throttle response in the city was pretty pleasant. You have different riding modes, but also in sport mode, you can move the bike forward without it being too jerky or too pushy. And in the Twisties, however, you can really, really enjoy this engine. You can enjoy this engine because it delivers all of its power among all of the revs. So that means that you don't have all of the power at the low revs or only at high revs. The engine, being of this size and of this type, really gets you going from the very beginning, and then you can rev it out all the way to the top and then change gears, and you will be rewarded for that. However, as I said, if you want to ride in a spirited way, not too spirited, you can also short shift and enjoy the torque this engine produces at low RPMs, so definitely also a valid choice. We rode it in its sport settings, and it is a real joy, a real blast, this engine in the Twisties. That being said, let us move on to the next part, which would be the Duke's price. Now, if the first thing I criticized was the brake performance, the second thing I want to criticize openly is the price of this bike. It simply costs too much. However, it offers a great package, and it is definitely the lightest, most agile bike in this class. Now, I know the prices of this bike vary from country to country, so it is very difficult for me to tell the exact prices of the place you live in. So let me give you overall a picture of the prices of this bike and its competitors. Now, the 990 costs about 15,000 euros. And now compare that to a Z900, for example, Kawasaki's 4-cylinder bike, which costs about 10,400 euros. The SE version costing less than 12,000 euros. The Street Triple RS costs about 13,000 euros. The MT-09 costs about 11,000, and the MT-09 SP 13,000 euros. So you can see that this bike costs at least 2,000 euros too much. However, it does offer great riding performance, and the engine is a real pearl. The quick shifter works perfectly as well. So it somehow is a unique bike in this category because of its lightweight, because of its philosophy, which leads me to say that yes, we can criticize the bike, but it does offer a damn lot for its price. And so yeah, that's why I leave that decision up to you. With that being said, this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a question about the 990 Duke, please let me know in the comments down below. I will give it my best to answer all of them. And yes, that being said, thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.